We have a pretty cool message that we want to share with you guys, especially as we talk about free enterprise. And I love the fact that we did the first responders and the military march-in. I went through and I got to shake hands with everybody. And some people, I didn't even realize that they had spent some time in the service. And that was really awesome. But I want to just kind of take you back real quick because I love telling stories, particularly when they're about my wife. And I was just really thinking it's been 33 years since that day that I was walking down the hall and I saw this little thing.
It's not 33 years since that.
And I've told the story and I remember. I said, man, she's kind of cute. She's little. And she looks mean. But I'm a guy. Here's why I say that. I had no idea that day that 30 some odd years later, we'd have two awesome kids and we'd be on top of the world. Nor did I have any idea that I would be in this awesome Amway business because it was never on the horizon. And it's just funny how God has a plan for you. And if you're here, it is not by accident. There is a plan. Because truthfully, I was definitely 100%, I love what Tim said, I was an IBO waiting to happen. You just had to have a little bit of credibility and you had to be able to carry yourself, and I just said, sign me up. Because that's exactly what I did. And it's not that Sharon was as easy to do that, but I think she saw enough in me and believed in me, and she said yes to marriage. So pretty much she was going to go with the plan. Why am I saying that? Because I want everybody to understand why you're here and all the stories that you're hearing. And I love the idea of the dip. We actually got that from Iowa, which is fantastic. It just shows that we're all on the same sheet of music. We all come to the same walk of life. We've all gone through the same ups and same downs, the same dips. We've all gone through them, and we've gone through them together. And Sharon is going to share a story, and she's going to talk about missions. And then I'm going to probably piggyback on that. I told her, I said, you know what? I think that 100% what I'm going to say is going to come to me when I'm on stage. Because I just think that that's what works best for me. When God just puts something in my head and it comes out, and hopefully you guys go, man, that was pretty good. Or you'll say, bro, what were you doing? And I'm good with that. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn you over to my best friend. It's really cool because, you know, our start is different. You know, two broken families, single moms and everything. But just like in this business, long ago, before we understood this business, we made a commitment to each other because we definitely had dreams and we had goals. And I believe because we had dreams and goals, that there was a path that was laid out for us, and we just had to be willing enough to have the courage and have the conviction to follow that path. And when it seemed like it wasn't going to work out real well, we just had to believe that God had a plan and just to keep moving forward. So I'm going to turn you over to my best friend. Here's my most precious jewel. Here's Sharon Coley.
So good evening, URA, and welcome to FED 2025. We are excited to just get a few minutes to spend with you all. As you heard a little bit earlier, there's a great lineup coming tonight. So we're just going to just chat with you for just a bit. And like David said, there's some things that have been on our heart and on our mind. And yeah, FED, it's going to be an awesome time. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to kick off and thank Lynn Field. Last night she talked about FED. And is there anybody in here, honestly, that when you came into this environment, or before coming to this environment, had no idea what FED was? Because that was me, David and I, coming into this environment. You know, one of the things she said last night is as important as it is for you to become an independent business owner, what we learned and what she pointed out is how important it is for you to become an independent business thinker. And that's what FED and that's what conference after conference after conference did for us. Because transparently, you know, when we got into this business, we had no idea what FED was. Our background is we were military officers, so we were straight up in the E quadrant, and we didn't understand things like, capitalism and free enterprise, and we were not familiar with those things at all. We had embarked on our military careers, but we were looking for opportunity. We recognized in our particular scenario that at some point we were going to have to take that uniform off, and we were looking for a way to give back beyond that. And so I say that because maybe some of you guys are new in here and you don't know us, a little bit about our background. So Davis spent 32 years in uniform. We met at the Air Force Academy, like he said. He spent 32 years in uniform. He was promoted early to the rank of full bird colonel 06. And he was on the general officer's track. He was tracking, and he was on that track until he decided that he wasn't going to be. My background is I flew C-5s in the Air Force. I ended up graduating pilot training literally 3 weeks before 9/11 happened. So I thought I was going to graduate and go into this year's Air Force Reservist Flying Club. And lo and behold, I did not have any idea what my next couple of years were going to look like as we served this country. But you know what? It's what we signed up for, is what we were about, and so there was no big deal. And so fast forward, 2004, we got in this business in 1994 when we got married. So we celebrate 2 anniversaries every year. It's our wedding anniversary is the same as our business anniversary, so we can't ever get that wrong. But so 2004, we found ourselves in a position where, 9/11 had kind of settled down a little bit. We had been called active duty, and then I was released, and there was opportunity for me at that time to choose. If I wanted to go to the airline, I had all the hours, I had all the credentials, I had all the experience. It was just going to be a matter of, did I want to make that transition from being part-time in the military flying to a career flying in the Air Force. And I say that because with all of those options that we had, we chose this business. Before I tell you why I made that decision, I want to share a quick story with you. So right after 9/11 happened, the C-5 pre-positioned every tank, every Humvee, every troop, everything before the war kicked off. And what had happened was they identified a place. It was called Bagram Air Base. And we were going to use this place because we could take our troops and their equipment, and literally it allowed them to convoy a shorter distance to where they needed to be, and it kept them out of harm's way more. But the challenge was, to get there, you had to fly over some unfriendly airspace. And so the Air Force came up with this great idea that they were going to make C-5s stealth. So here's what that looked like, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know, a C-5 is about as large as a football field. It's a cargo airplane. We can take twice as much as the C-17 and 4 times as much as the C-130. So they like to use us a lot because we could get a lot of stuff in one trip. And so I'm just going to, pilots use their hands a lot. So if this were our runway, this was their idea of making a C-5 stealth. The Air Force says, okay, C-5 pilots, here's what I want you to do. Typically, if this is your runway, and you guys don't know, a lot of you flew here, you come in, you land, drop off your stuff, and then the plane takes off and goes somewhere else. I said, okay, because there's so much unfriendly territory, and we want you guys undetected, here's what we want you to do. If this is your one runway, instead of coming down and landing like this, we want you to stay up here. And then when you get over that runway, we want you a little ways out. I won't tell you how far. But a little ways out, we want you to turn off all your lights, put on your Kevlar gear, and if you got an extra vest, I would recommend you sit on it. Put on your Kevlar gear, and then when you get over the runway, make sure you're completely blacked out. It's always pitch black at night. We never did it in the day. And I want you to just kind of do donuts in the sky. Now, you can imagine being 700,000 pounds with no power and doing donuts in the sky. And so I say that because, as scary as that was, and in every mission that I was a part of, I was always kind of a unique individual. I always stood out. And we can remember everybody, because no one was familiar with this maneuver, and it made everyone nervous. And so I say that because I can remember the experience that I had the very first time I did it, and then the second time I did it. And here's what I knew, and here's what I experienced. When we got on our Kevlar gear, when we were blacked out, and the first time we had the spiral down, I can remember the first time I did it when I was in the pilot seat, not the co-pilot seat. Here's what I didn't do. And here's why, when you have a common mission, a common purpose, or a common goal, how nothing else matters. I didn't go, hey, Copilot, I know we're about to do this, this unique spiral down, but before I do this, I need to know who you voted for. I didn't go, hey, engineer, before you cross-flow my fuel valves because I'm going to be at a 45-degree steep bank angle, I need to know what social media influencer you follow. I didn't ask my jump seat, hey, just curious. I didn't ask my jump seat anything because you know what? In that environment, in any environment, when you have a common purpose, when you're unified, things like that don't matter. And so coming back to 2004, why we chose this and why we chose here, because URA and this environment and building a business, I saw a wave of diversity of people with a common mission and a common goal and a common background. And it allowed us to flesh out the noise of everything else because we recognized that we just did the dip exercise. We have, as different as we all are, we still have so many things in common that can keep us together and unified, and you got to understand the importance of unity. Lynn Skargard talked about it last night, and I'll go back to this a little bit. In that space when I learned that lesson, here's what I also saw. I remember the first time we did the spiral down, I was in the co-pilot seat, and the guy who was doing it was very experienced, and he looked at me and he said, I know you think I'm very experienced, but this is new to us all. I don't have an ego. If I'm off, you need to tell me. Because it's very easy. You think spiraling down is scary? Imagine spiraling up and being short of a stall in an aircraft that's 700,000 pounds. And so it was just a scary maneuver at all times that really united us because we had a common goal and mission. Lynn Skargard said it last night. She said, you know what? We are a family. We impact each other to win. We help each other, and we grow as a unified team. And that's what kept us here. That's what drove us. That's why David and I chose this environment. We came into this environment, we saw a place not that was just good for us, but it was going to be good, and we could grow it and add to it for our kids. We could grow and add to it for your kids, to create a community, to create an environment where everyone they're just uplifted. And so that was very important to us because I didn't grow up in an environment like that. The big thing for us is understanding that as Americans, we always talk about our rights and different things like that. But being blessed to have a platform, it's not just about my rights when I'm up here. I feel like I got to be mindful of my responsibility. And I say that because this environment has the ability to give us everything that we want and give you everything you want, but you need to be intentional on everything you do. And so what I did and what we always do moving forward, we have a litmus test. And here's our litmus test. Before I speak or uplift or edify anything or anyone from this platform, my first thought is, Sharon, when you're up there and you're speaking those things, what are you spreading? Are you spreading hope? Are you spreading hurt? Are you creating unity? Are you creating division? Are the words that you're speaking, if you're going to say something about someone from here, could I take any word that any person that says and repeat it up here and it be for the betterment of us all? And if the answer is no, that person doesn't belong coming out of my mouth. In my opinion, it doesn't belong in this environment from us. And I take that responsibility not lightly. But man, I get everybody in here has opinions, but if you build it in this platform, you have a voice. And with that voice comes responsibility. And so for those of you out there that may be outside in the mainstream world, you're hearing things and you're feeling things, and I'm gonna bring that thing back off the table again. I feel you. I understand you. I'm with you. And I want you guys to know, and I want to encourage you guys to build this right here. We all have the exact same opportunity to build whatever we want here. But understand that with your voice is not just about how you feel, there's a responsibility that comes with it. And I 100% believe that because David and I have learned and grown into understanding what that responsibility is. And so we literally, 2 kids from the projects coming from broken homes, have found a place where we can create a voice this is a very place that anybody can create a voice. And so as we talk about creating unity and understanding when people from all different backgrounds are unified in their mission and their purpose, the great things that can happen out of that. And so I just want to bring David up really quick. And I just want to say, guys, this business does have the ability to give you anything that you're willing to work for. And we pray that you go out there and create your voice, because there's so many people that don't have a voice and they need you. We love you guys.
Good job. 100%, I married a winner, for sure. And very, very proud of all that, that Sharon was able to accomplish, because when you are 7 years old and you live in the projects and, you decide you tell somebody you want to be a pilot, nobody believes you. Nobody encourages you. You have to have, as a 7-year-old, intestinal fortitude that most adults don't have. So always proud of Sharon. I want to transition, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the things I got to do in the military, only because when we were lining up and I was going through there, I kind of missed that camaraderie. I do not miss 66. I do not miss the Pentagon. I do not miss all the hours. I don't miss all that. But I do miss the camaraderie. And it was really cool to walk through and shake hands and high-five everybody that was in the service, because there's a special camaraderie because of the things that you've gone through. I want to take you guys back, because I'm sure you're familiar with this. How many of you guys have seen the movie Black Hawk Down? Everybody's seen that, right? Awesome movie. That was actually called Restore Hope. And I want to take you to that time, because it was a pivotal time in my career that kind of parlays with this business. When Operation Restore Hope, it meant that we had some skirmishes going over in Somalia, on part of Africa. My boss deployed over there, which left me in charge. And between me and two other little lieutenants, we had about 5 years of experience, which means we knew nothing. We knew absolutely nothing. And I remember going to my boss and saying, "Sir, I got to be honest with you, I'm a bit nervous, because we have 5 years of experience, and some of our senior NCO Corps is what we call ROAD, which is retired on active duty, which means they weren't doing their job." And he said, "I know, Dave, that's why I put you in charge." And it's so funny how words and words of affirmation, or words that people believe, or words that people speak into you, will allow you to do things that you didn't even think were possible. And that was that case for me. It's one of the biggest things I remember from that time. And it was crazy the amount of hours we were working, the things we were doing. But I also remember this. I remember we were working to get this aircraft off the ground. I mean, every time we wanted to launch it, something else would break, something else would break, something else would break. And we finally launched this aircraft. And it was vital, because we were taking a lot of supplies that were necessary for our folks who were over in Somalia. Today, when you deploy, you can have a Baskin-Robbins. I'm not knocking anybody who deploys, don't get me wrong, but it's a little different. Back then, you were literally almost Air Force, which is kind of unknown. Army people were like, that's how we live. But Air Force, we're living in tents. That's not how we roll. If we're not at Marriott level or above, we don't go. And our troops were over, our folks, my boss was living in a tent. So it was vital for us to get some stuff over to him. And I remember when CNN was over there and they showed the tail flash, which is just a stripe on the tail of the aircraft. It was a blue tail, and it was landing over in Somalia. It was exciting, like we won a Super Bowl, because we felt we were part of something that was happening in the world. And it was huge. And I say that because that's where, when we went to the meeting in October of '04, and I saw Dave and Christian doing a plan, I felt like that tail flash again in Somalia. I felt like I found something, I found an organization, I found a place where I can actually become better, I could actually grow in all kinds of different ways, and we could create a future for ourselves. And it was awesome because at that time we weren't called URA. But in 2007, when we actually became part of URA, I fell in love even more because it was your association. And everything that Sharon talked about, when we say your association, it's because we're united, we're a unit, we are all together wanting to move forward in a direction. And we've talked about that. We've talked about coliseums and everything. And it only takes a handful of people who decide that they believe in the mission, the cause, and the purpose of what we want to do and to be able to move forward. And when we do that, there's nothing that we can't do. I want to give you another story, another operation I had the chance to do, because again, it ties back to this. And I used a lot of principles from the business as we did this. Went to Diego Garcia, which is way out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's just a dot in the middle of the Indian Ocean. A lot of Navy people there, so they love that kind of stuff. If you've ever seen Gilligan's Island, that's exactly what Diego Garcia looked like. If you do like this, you don't see the warships and you think you're on Gilligan's Island, because it was beautiful. Except, again, Air Force, I'm living in a tent. I'm like, what is up with this? But we were setting up, and I helped to put together this mission plan where we were going to take C-5s, which normally they just keep moving. Cargo planes just keep moving. But we were going to do something different. We were going to actually bed them down in Diego Garcia. And I'm telling you this because the reason why when I see the flag and everything, and when I go see my brothers in arms, it's because we did things that were different that no one else had ever done before. We wrote an op order and of how we were going to do this, and I got to lead the logistics unit to take these aircraft, and then C-5s don't really do combat, but it sounded better than cargo missions. So we ran, we called them combat missions, into Afghanistan. We're running 2 a day on a certain timeline, and it had to be on a precise timeline because there were a lot of other aircraft that were going into the airport at the same time, and those aircraft were carrying things that could hurt people. We were just carrying things that would build people. Because when I mean build people, literally, we were taking stuff in there to build roads, to build schools. Because if you're going to go change a nation, you build a road, you start a commerce. You want to educate the nation, you build a school. And so that's what we were sending in there at that time. And I was proud of what we were doing and what we were accomplishing and how we were getting it done. And I'm telling you, there is a DNA of winning that goes through when you're in an operation like that. Fast forward. I get here and I see what URA is all about. And there is a DNA of winning. And all you have to do is you have to just look at John Crow and understand his story and understand what it truly means to win. So many of the leaders have had challenges, but they continue to win. You remember McGee, how she stood on stage strong and vibrant and kicking butt. We all loved when McGee would talk. And then we heard for the first time at the Michigan leadership, we heard Lynn Sturgar, and she blew everybody away. And I remember we were putting together the schedule, and Dave said, Lynn has got to talk. She's got to do this. And, Dave started spitting and everything like this. He's excited. And I was saying to myself, bro, of course, I didn't know that. I didn't say that to you, but that's what I was thinking. Why am I saying that? Because you saw the strength. You saw the strength of a woman who had been knocked down. She got back up. She had been bent, but she wasn't broken. And that's the fabric of URA. There is a DNA of winning. Right now, we hear a lot about Gabe and Lauren Dawson, which is absolutely awesome. And yesterday, it may have been John and Yoni Sturgar. And before that, it may have been Marcus and Jesse. Here's what I'm saying. The bench is deep, man. It's there, it's them. And then it's going to be, who's going to be the next story? See, because their story is inspiring you, and our story is kind of old and tarnished. Our story won't inspire you. It's that next person who's going to step up. And what I always talk about is when we go into a crowd and we look for people, that's what we're looking for. Because so many people have stories. We had a night out last night, and we had people just kind of share their stories. People that wouldn't walk across stage, but they had phenomenal stories. I know each and every last one of you guys out here fought, scratched, clawed. Many of you, this may have been your last dollar to get here, and you're saying, man, this is what I need to do. You have a story. And that story is going to resonate big time. And so, yeah, we're all excited about what Gabe and Lauren are doing, but what about your next story? I want to kind of wrap it up with this, because I talked about there's a winning DNA that we've learned from URA, that we've embodied in so many different things, and it's a story about our son, because Duran, we're proud of that little guy, but he's taller than me. I shouldn't say little guy. But when Duran went to Clemson, he decided he wanted to go to a bigger school because it'd be a bigger challenge. He didn't want to be a big fish in a little pond. So he went to a much bigger school. And then when he graduated, he was like, man, I'm pretty excited. He just did the things he did and got a job and just worked in his job. And I love my son, but he's real tight when it comes to money. And here's what I mean. About 2.5 years ago, he said, Mom, Dad, for my birthday, can you get me an iPhone? I'm like, Deron, we're not getting you an iPhone. I'm going to tell you how tight he is. He has the same phone right now as he did 2.5 years ago. So it really wasn't that important to get a new phone. All right? But instead, Sharon ended up sending him, say, hey, why don't you just take a flight? There's an airport by your house. Why don't you just take an orientation flight? And he did. And 2 weeks after that, and we have a really good relationship. We talk to our kids all the time, not how was your day, but like life stuff. Like we actually coach and mentor our kids, which is really awesome. He said, Mom and Dad, hey, can I talk to you guys? And he said, I want to be a fighter pilot. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like, you're an IT guy. Where did this come from? You decided not to go to Air Force Academy. You did not do ROTC. Where did this come from? And so I said, you realize it's going to be at least $25,000 to get a private pilot's license, to get all the hours, all these tests, and all these kind of things. And he said something that blew me away. And your kids actually do grow up, and they actually do develop plans. And sometimes you just don't believe it. You just have to see it. He said, yeah, I know, Dad, and I got it mapped out. I got it mapped out. Well, after completing all the things you need to do and going to all these different places you need to go to and applying to all these different units, because if you're going to be in the reserves, you have to apply to a unit that actually has a vacancy, and he might have gone to 6 or 7 units to apply. But when I say there's a winning DNA, just because the first person says no doesn't mean you stop there. You go until you find the yes. And so if you could put up the picture, please. So what is awesome is About 2 months ago, Deron went out to Utah and interviewed, and then a couple of days later, he was the first phone call from the Utah Reserve Unit because they selected him to be a Diamondback and fly the F-35. Give it up for that. I say that not in bragging, I say that because so much of what we learn is from the DNA and the fabric of winning that is all here in URA. We love you. Good night.
This recording is exclusively for the use of existing IBOs